Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing cannabis yet again. And this is one of those issues, if you will, that I think there's a certain amount of misconception that's sort of floating around about this topic. Most notably, I made a video recently where we discussed that to one degree or another, and I'm not calling out any specific people, but the media generally, the ether of the media, if you will, at the moment, seems to not really, I don't know if they have their own motivations or whatever, but they seem to be kind of framing this as we're in a legal vacuum or it's a gray area. And I've done the videos on this already where I explain, no, based on, and I'm coming at this as a comparative sort of, an exercise in comparative law as an American attorney looking at, the way the Thai civil law system is, or all civil law jurisdictions for that matter. One of the basic tenets is the doctrine of codification, which stipulates that in order to illegalize something, a statute has to be promulgated that specifically illegalizes that item, that product, or that act in order for it to be considered a legitimate restriction pursuant to the philosophy, if you will, of civil law. So again, as we've discussed, there is no gray area. There is more, it's clear, it's legal here right now. Yes, there are regulations on it. As we've discussed in prior videos, it's considered a controlled herb, and those who are not 20 years of age cannot partake of it, pursuant to current law as we currently sit at this time. That said, there's been discussion about promulgating new legislation that would put restrictions upon this. And as I discussed in prior videos, and full disclosure, I think that I have serious qualms about that. I think, there's a way to do this, and that way to do it is what's best, in my opinion, for Thailand. And I'm hoping that, as the title of this video suggests, cooler heads sort of prevail, if you will, in terms of further consideration on this issue, because I think it's warranted at the end of the day. I think a lot of folks agree, actually. A lot of business has come about out of this. There have been knock-on implications, as I've noted in other videos. Things like commercial real estate. The commercial real estate sector is seeing some significant benefits as a result of this. And this is at a time when we're watching the commercial real estate sector in other jurisdictions absolutely implode. So again, further consideration is, I think, very warranted. And I think that this recent news that I found in the Bangkok Post, Bangkokpost.com, I think this further news is quite good. I think it shows a real, shall we say, an intention to fully consider all ramifications of this before promulgating some act that may have knock-on implications that could be detrimental to the economy here in Thailand. Again, Bangkok Post, Bangkokpost.com. Article is titled, Government Delays Approval of Cannabis Ban Legislation. And first of all, the way that this is being framed by certain outlets, cannabis ban legislation, that's not what's happening. It's not going to be banned. They've discussed this many, many times. Now, how it's categorized may be, up for debate, but it's not going to be banned. Quoting further, the government delayed the approval of a draft bill that would ban the recreational use of cannabis as it needs more opinions from other parties, Public Health Minister Cholnan Srikau said after the cabinet meeting on Tuesday. Ministry of Public Health could not submit the bill to the cabinet on Tuesday because more time is needed to seek views, Mr. Cholnan said. Quoting further, the previous administration implemented landmark legislation in mid-2022, propelling Thailand to become the first country in Asia to decriminalize cannabis. As I've said in other videos, that's not the correct terminology. I kind of hate the word decriminalize in and of itself, because what it really means is law enforcement is not doing their job. Decriminalization is what occurs when you have a law and, for example, law enforcement just sort of says, yeah, we're not going to enforce that, or we're not going to enforce it in a certain way. There are times when I think that it's warranted, like where people clearly want to see a law changed, and for example, a legislative body might not be in session, so the enforcement mechanism decides, or I should say the executive mechanism decides to go ahead and say, yeah, that's not going to be our priority. So yeah, decriminalization under certain circumstances, I think that's a warranted use of of the term, that's not a warranted use of the term under present circumstances. As I've discussed in other videos, again, this is legal here. Quoting further, and enabling thousands of marijuana and weed-related shops to open. Well, I love this whole allowing. Nothing was allowed. Cannabis just became legal, and people that want to sell it are opening shops in order to do so. You know, and again, I think it's interesting, you know, the use of the term ban. Again, this isn't going to be a ban, no matter how we look at it. It's going to be an issue of regulation. Now, my main concern is this whole notion of recreational cannabis to begin with, as I discussed in other videos. You know, we don't see a major hue and cry amongst the political establishment, and I wouldn't say there's necessarily a hue and cry from the political establishment at the moment, but from any parts, if you will, any political actors crying out for a ban of any kind on recreational use of grapes in the form of wine, or wheat and honey in the form of beer, you know, or hops and, you know, in the form of beer. There's no call for a ban to the recreational use of those products, notwithstanding the fact, as we've discussed in other videos, alcohol does far more damage, and the statistics are out there in terms of lives lost, than does cannabis. Now, a counter argument to that could be, well, we haven't seen it legal, although we've seen it illegal, and we know that, you know, it's not an unfair statement to say it doesn't kill anybody in any meaningful way. Somebody quoted somewhere I saw that was quoted that last year, you know, X number of people died as a result of alcohol and like one person from cannabis. And I couldn't figure out what the background was on the one person who passed away, because I'm fairly certain there are other things going on rather than just, you know, imbibing a bunch of cannabis, because, again, it just basically does not have that capability. It's my understanding, even like high THC content cannabis, you'd have to ingest so much of it that it's a practical impossibility. That said, I'm not a medical professional, I'm not any expert herbologist or something, but the point to take away from this video is it's been determined that further consideration is needed. Thank you, government. Good. That this does need further consideration. We do need to look hard at this issue, because it can be a major benefit for Thailand, for everyone in Thailand, if we craft a piece of legislation that is crafted in such a way that it does not detrimentally impact the economy and impact large sectors of the Thai economy, while at the same time, yes, health and safety need to be taken into consideration, and we do need regulation. I'm not anti-regulation, but I just would like to see regulation that benefits rather than creates even a cost-benefit analysis.